Hey everyone, welcome back to Scareproof. Tonight, we bring you chilling true stories. Encounters so terrifying, they'll stay with you long after the video ends. If you're into the paranormal, unexplained events, and moments that send shivers down your spine, you're in the right place. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell icon, and leave a like to keep the fear flowing straight to your screen. Now, turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and prepare for stories that are anything but fiction. I used to work at a hotel where way too many strange things happen. Not just to me, but to several of my coworkers as well. In the pool and sauna area, there were at least 2 times when I clearly heard someone calling my name. I thought it was my supervisor because the voice sounded just like hers, but it wasn't her, and I was completely alone at the time. In the gym, some coworkers reported that the treadmills would make noises, like someone was running on them, but the belts wouldn't move. You could hear it clearly, like an invisible person was working out there. In the main restaurant, the bathroom doors would open on their own, and chairs would scrape across the floor as if someone had pushed them, except no one was there. I especially remember one day when a coworker was cleaning the guest elevator's glass doors. Out of nowhere, the elevator started going up by itself and stopped at the 7th floor. That was impossible. You needed a key card to access anything above the 3rd floor, and only guests or high-level staff had that access. During our lunch break, security showed us footage from the VIP elevator. Around 3 a.m., the alarm activated like someone had pressed the call button, except there were no guests around. The VIP lounge camera located in the underground parking lot also turned on by itself. Only security and upper management had keys to that area. What they captured was even more unsettling. The camera stayed on for about 4 minutes, like someone invisible was standing there. Then it turned off and turned back on again. Seconds later, a large dark shadow passed in front of the camera. In that exact moment, the elevator alarm, the motion sensor, and the camera itself all shut down. Everything stopped at once. Over time, you kind of get used to it and stop being scared. But the number of stories we'd hear among ourselves was endless, and somehow, each one felt creepier than the last. Since I was a little girl, I always knew when someone was going to die. I felt it with such clarity that the very next day that person would pass away. It was so strong and terrifying that I used to beg God to take it away from me. I lived with that fear until I was about 17. It happened constantly. Over time, it became less frequent, but even now, whenever I say something, it usually comes true. I'll talk about someone, and suddenly, they die. It's like life always shows me something, not as intensely as when I was younger, but what I say happens. The most recent was with a cousin. We were laughing together, and I even joked with people saying, "Look, there he is." The next day, they told me he had been killed. The strange part? It didn't happen in the city where I saw him. It was in a completely different one. He had never even been in that area, yet I saw him with my own eyes. Not long ago, while I was making dinner, I felt a presence. When I turned toward the hallway, I saw myself walking. I was wearing exactly the same clothes I had on. I froze. It was me, walking right in front of me. I stood there, peeking from the kitchen, and watched as that figure slowly faded away. The fear was so intense, I felt chills run down my spine. I also remember that I used to win games of chance, guessing things without meaning to. But after praying so much for this gift to be taken away, those experiences have faded. Still, once in a while, they come back, and when they do, they paralyze me. Many times I cried in silence, begging for this to go away, whatever it is that's haunted me for so long. All I know is that there are things not everyone can see, and sometimes the only thing you can do is wish you didn't. A few years ago, when I was 17, I had a small psychedelic lamp in my room. Every night before going to sleep, I'd turn it on and leave it in static mode so the lights wouldn't rotate. One night, while lying in bed watching videos on my phone, I noticed the lights starting to spin on their own. I found it odd, since I was sure I hadn't turned on that mode. I put my phone down and leaned in to get a better look. That's when I saw, clearly, the bulb starting to unscrew by itself, like an invisible hand was twisting it out. The bulb fell to the floor. I heard the sound perfectly as it hit. I leaned over the bed to grab it, but it wasn't there. Without getting up, I bent down further and looked under the bed. The bulb was all the way in the back corner, where it made no sense for it to be. It was shaped like a half moon, so there was no way it could have rolled like that. I froze. I did what any sane person would do in that moment. I left it there and laid back down. But not before saying out loud that if someone was messing with me, they better not expect me to crawl under the bed to get the bulb. I said I didn't like those kinds of jokes. I turned everything off, pulled the blanket over my head, and tried to sleep. The next morning, my grandma, who I lived with, woke me up early to go downtown. We got ready, had breakfast, and left. I didn't mention what happened, and honestly, I didn't think much about it throughout the day. We got back around 6:30 p.m. When I walked into my room to put away the things I'd bought, the lamp was right where I left it. But the bulb was back in place, perfectly screwed in, like nothing had ever happened. I froze. I grabbed the lamp and went to ask my grandma if she had gone into my room to fix it. She had no idea what I was talking about, so I told her everything. She looked at me for a moment and said I probably dreamed it, or that I was just overtired that night. I'm not sure if she didn't believe me, or if she just didn't want to scare me. I went back to my room and set the lamp down again. I don't have it anymore, but that experience still haunts me, and I know for a fact I wasn't dreaming. When I was younger, my mom had to leave for work, and I stayed alone in the old house where I grew up. It was a shared room in a building where several adults lived, most of whom left early in the morning and didn't return until late at night. That afternoon, the power was out. Despite the silence, I felt uneasy. I decided to lie down for a nap. I must have fallen into a deep sleep, because as soon as I closed my eyes, I saw myself lying face down on the bed. At the door stood a man, dressed entirely in black, hat, coat, and pants, all the same dark shade. He had no face, but I could feel the cold tension in the air. I knew without a doubt that he was watching me. I felt a heavy pressure on my chest and suddenly woke up, unable to move. My body was paralyzed. It was like being stuck between sleep and waking, but the fear was overwhelming. I convinced myself it would pass and forced myself to fall asleep again. But I found myself back in the same room. This time the faceless man was almost inside. His figure stood out in the dim light, and just seeing him filled me with terror. I woke again, numb and unable to move. When I finally regained control of my body, I told myself it had just been a vivid nightmare. I drifted off once more, and there he was, standing in the doorway, just one step away from me. The air turned ice cold, so sharp I could feel it on my skin. For a few seconds, I genuinely thought my heart would stop from fear. Suddenly, everything vanished. I woke up soaked in sweat, breathing hard. I didn't say a word to anyone. I chalked it up to a bad dream and kept quiet. A few days later, my mom told me something that chilled me to the bone. She had seen the same faceless man, but she wasn't asleep. She said he was standing in the hallway just before sunrise, right by my door, watching us in silence. That's when I knew it wasn't just a dream. Whatever it was real, and it was still in that house. I once went hiking with my family. I was about 14, and my cousins were around 17. They were walking ahead, and since the trail was narrow and surrounded by thick trees, we'd shout out, "Cuckoo," every now and then, just to make sure no one got left behind. It was our little hiking signal. At one point, we all caught up and regrouped, but even then, we kept hearing that same confused cuckoo echoing from the woods. We figured someone else was on the trail, maybe messing with us, so we brushed it off. On our way back, we estimated it'd take no more than 2 hours to get out. But the hours kept passing, and we still couldn't find the way. It started getting dark. We picked up the pace, but my cousins started saying they saw something moving between the trees. I didn't see anything, but I could feel it, like something was watching us. That's when one of my aunts remembered a story she was told as a child. She said that in forests like this, there's a spirit, an ancient forest guardian, who gets angry when people enter without respect. She told us to stop, stay quiet, and ask the forest for permission to leave. I don't know if it worked or if it was just luck, but shortly after, we finally found the path out. That night, it rained harder than I'd seen in years. We blamed the storm for losing our way, but deep down, as we made our way back home, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still watching us. From the shadows. If you're still here, thanks for surviving another night with us. Remember to subscribe to Scareproof. Hit that bell so you never miss the next terrifying story. And leave a comment telling us what's the scariest thing that's ever happened to you. Because here, fear is always just one story away. Until next time, sleep with one eye.